Welcome back to the Encore Audio Archives YouTube channel. I'm Taper Dave, and this is my channel. The archives and load up some other talks that I've got of these Bob Earll cassettes. I've had them sitting on a hard drive for some time now. I've decided to share them with you all. Let me know what you think. Some people loved Bob. Some people hated Bob. Bob was Bob, but he talked all over the world. I mean, he's from Los Angeles, Beverly Hills area, and did other things. I think he was a writer. Just click down below, like or subscribe, or both, like and subscribe. Just click down below, like and subscribe on my channel. It helps me out. Just a little click for you, doesn't cost you anything, and I'm bringing you some Bob Earll. And have a good day if you want to.
Hi, I'm Darcy, an addict alcoholic. And I asked for the opportunity to introduce our speaker tonight because his story has been really special in my life, as I'm sure it has to most of us that have been here that have seen him before. I had the opportunity to hear him speak when I had 30 days, and it was the first person I heard that I could relate to the feelings that were being shared. And I've taken each opportunity that I could to hear him again, and I know it's the message that's important, and it's the message that changed my recovery or continued the recovery where I started and kept me going. And I'd just like to personally thank you for your open-mindedness and your honesty and your ability to carry the message that you do. And I'd like to introduce Bob E. right now.
I'm Bob Earll. I'm an addict and alcoholic. I like the part about using the guy's drugs who had died from the respiratory failure. That was... Most of you may have missed that, but that touched me. God, so many new people here tonight. Well, I'm glad to have you. Welcome to a hell of an adventure. My wife calls it Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. It's I was listening to, you know, name after name of the new people, and I thought, and I've been clean and sober now for almost 30 years. It'll be 30 years pretty soon. And yeah, sure. I was 12 when I got here.
God, what a great guy. He was so funny.
13. And it's like, God, reflecting back over that span of time, and I was thinking, well, what was it like when I was new? And I thought the only thing I cared about when I was new was not getting loaded. I mean, I didn't care about anything else. I just cared about not getting loaded. If I could have a day free from drugs and free from alcohol, I would be a happy man, a really happy man. And was led into the doors of Alcoholics Anonymous and got a day, you know, got a day. And I got another day. And they got me a sponsor, a couple of them. They felt they needed a couple of them. The first couple of people I asked turned me down. I had a few mental problems. I didn't like people, basically, and anyhow. And then, you know, eventually I went along a little while, and God, they gave me somebody to talk to. You know, they found some poor, sick, spinning, you know, guy, and no one else wanted to talk to him, and they said, Bob, talk to this guy, you know, and so I talked to him. And then they would take me out after the meetings for coffee and show me where the restaurants and places were, and I'd go out with them for this stupid coffee clutch. But I was afraid that if I didn't do these things, they'd ask me to leave, and I didn't have any place else to go. No place else to go. And then eventually I got a car, and once I got a car, I was taking guys to meetings now and picking them up instead of them picking me up. And I was driving people to the coffee shop now or for coffee after because I knew where it was. And I was listening to other guys read a ostensibly boring fifth step to me, and like mine was to my sponsor, who went to sleep. And I swear to God, sitting in his big comfortable chair in his living room, I was probably on armed robbery number 72, and he was going, and it's like I would wake up in the morning, you know, and I would get up and I'd say, wow, you know, God, I'm clean today, you know, I didn't get loaded today, I'm all right today, this is super, and charge on through life. And so sometimes you'll hear, if you listen to this kind of rumblings anywhere, there seems to be a small group in recovery with which I'm controversial. I don't know why, but I have an idea, and I'm about to get to that point. One morning I woke up and just being clean and sober was no longer enough. It was no longer enough. It didn't matter that I was clean. It didn't matter that I was sober. It didn't matter that I was sponsoring 30 guys. It didn't matter that I had 6 panels and institutions. It didn't matter that I was talking 2-3 nights a week at meetings. I wanted to die. And I spent a long time after that, waking up day after day after day, and my inner thing was, could we just get this over with? See? It was no longer enough. So for me, what I like to talk about is, I think initially it's essential, it's critical. Every ounce of your energy and being has got to go into just staying clean, just staying sober. But if you find yourself that you're like I am, you're going to reach a point where the quality of your life becomes very important as to whether or not you have a life. And by quality of life, I don't mean that you live in a huge house and have lots of money and drive expensive cars and wear expensive clothes. By the quality of life means that you're comfortable in your body. You know? You're comfortable in your body. You like who you are. You know? You look in the mirror and say, this guy's all right. I can remember early on in recovery, somebody said to me, go home and look in the mirror and tell yourself that you love you. Just look at yourself in the mirror and say, I love you. And I went home and I got in front of the mirror and it was like, this went on for about 3 minutes, and finally I said, man, you are the sickest son of a bitch I've ever met. I could no more say I love you than the man in the moon, because I knew what was going on inside. You only saw the outside. All anybody ever saw of me was Recovery Bob, you know, one more person that I created, you know, and I would put him on in the parking lot outside of the meeting. Coming to the meeting, I was this raging lunatic doing 90 miles an hour down a residential street, hanging out the window, screaming obscenities at the guy next to me. I'm threatening to kill him and his children if he just stopped his car. And then I would slow down to 40 before I hit the meeting parking lot, come in, get out of the car, close the door, and it was like a transformation as I would walk quietly into the meeting. And someone would say, how are you, Bob? I'd say, I'm fine. A little hoarse, perhaps, from all the screaming. You know? Do you have a cold? No, I'm fine, thanks. It's okay, just a little sore throat, I'll be fine. And the reason I did that was because I still believed what I believed when I was a kid, which was that I wasn't okay. That if you really saw me, if you really got to know me, you would make me go away, or you would go away, or you would embarrass me publicly. Somehow you would humiliate me in front of other people, like pull my pants down. I mean, you know, like that thing when you're kids in school, and, you know, you used to yank a guy's Levi's down. It's like I was afraid that that was going to happen to me on a much larger scale in recovery. So I wouldn't come into the meeting and show you that I was angry and mad and wanted to kill everybody that I met. I wouldn't come into the meeting and show you that I was scared to death, that I just wasn't going to have enough of whatever it was to make it. Somehow I was insufficient and inadequate and couldn't put this thing together. I didn't want to come in the meeting and show you that I hurt inside really bad, because I didn't want to be made fun of by anybody. And I had, you know, I just only wimps did that kind of crap coming. I don't feel, you know, not me, man. I'm not going to show you any of that. I'm fine. I had great cliches I could quote. You could come up with a problem and I would have a quote, you know? No feelings, but a quote. A good quote. A good quote. But if it did for you what it did for me, it did nothing, you know? You know? If somebody had said to me today, you know, besides not drinking and using, what's the next most important thing to recovery? I'd have to say feelings. Feelings. And the thing I find fascinating about feelings is we don't talk about them. My experience has been, it's not a really popular subject at meetings, you know, that a certain amount of sadness will be tolerated from the females. Not a lot, you know, we've got a timer on you, but you can have a few minutes of tears, it's all right. For the guys, no, you got to work it out, you know. We can't have you guys sitting in meetings, man, sobbing, bawling, crying, completely falling apart in your socks. This is not allowed. Isn't it fascinating that everyone I have ever heard in 30 years, and this is the truth, so help me God, I have yet to hear one person at a small participation meeting or at the speaker level get up and talk about their first encounter with drugs or alcohol, that what they did not say was, thank you very much, they said that somehow taking the drugs or drinking the alcohol made them feel taller, made them feel handsome, made them feel beautiful, sexy, tough, okay, happy, but I've never heard anyone describe their first encounter with chemicals that it didn't alter their feelings. It's about the feelings. And yet, that may well be the only time that person mentions the word feelings in their recovery, unless they get in so much pain that it's time to find out who you really are. I ran into this wall at 17 years clean and sober. I have a 10th grade education. I'm a phonetic speller. I have failed English ever since the 4th grade. I had an attention deficit in school, right? See, but I was growing up in a pretty standard home. I had an alcoholic father and a child batterer for a mother. I was the child. I was the only child, and I was the recipient of all of her anger. So when a kid like this hits school, you know, I mean, you got problems going. You hit the door. School is just one more unfriendly environment in which children should not be allowed to go. I know if there's any teachers out there, I really apologize, but the system does suck. And I'm sure if you are a teacher, you went into the system really well-meaning, and the system has probably beaten you to death too. With very few exceptions, is the child really honored in the system. It's about making the child fit the system instead of helping the system fit the children. So they drop me into school, and I'm sitting in class, and the 2nd grade teacher goes to the board, Mrs. Cooney, in her corrective shoes. I will remember her forever. And 2nd grade was a long time ago. And she would write 2 + 2 on the blackboard, draw the line under it, spin around and point to me and say, "Bobby?" Well, now, I knew the answer. Honest to God, I knew the answer. But I had a few things I had to work out before I answered the question. The most important thing I had to figure out was, why does she want to know? See? Because I'm growing up in a home where I'm being asked senseless questions and being knocked down for having the answer. Okay? So now the second thing I got to figure out is, does she know the answer? Right? Because I'm also being asked questions by people at home that don't know the answer to the question, and I give them the right answer, and I get slugged anyway. Right? So now I'm processing all of this. Sitting next to me in class is Susie, of course, who is the hero of her family. She's going to try and salvage her family by the family esteem by getting straight A's. So she interjects without being asked. "It's 4, teacher." Okay, so they didn't have the term attention deficit when I was in school. they had the term slow. So one more note, and they would say slow, like slow was a venereal disease. One more note would go home with Bobby that he was slow. Just slow. Had potential, but was slow. Not enough. Insufficient. Inadequate. Not up to the task. The same stuff I was getting at home. Susie, of course, was on my hit list for later, you know. She had embarrassed me publicly, and if I got big enough, I would take her life, was what I would plot in those days. So I had this, I didn't do well in school. School was hard for me. I didn't get along with other children in school. I got a straight line of unsatisfactories. They used to grade us in work habits, gets along with others, I don't know, all that crap. And I mean, it was straight U's all the way down the line. And I was a good kid. I was a good kid. I was actually a sweet little kid. This little blue-eyed, blonde-haired little guy. He was a good little guy, right? He was just under a lot of stress, you know? And it's interesting, they just didn't know then. They know now. Unfortunately, they still don't do it in a lot of the school systems. They just didn't know then that when you find children like that under stress, you better go find out why, because something's wrong. Something's wrong. Normally, children are just little balls of energy, you know? I mean, just Robert Bly talks about how children have 360 degrees of energy. They're born with it. And I can attest to that. I'm the father of a 4-year-old. We had her birthday party 3 weeks ago. We had 12 3- and 4-year-olds there for her birthday party. When it was all over, man, I was slouched in the chair in the kitchen, and I looked at my wife and I said, I honest to God feel like I've been electrocuted. I have never been, and these kids were all busy with little projects that we had for them and stuff. I mean, it wasn't like they were running, you know, screaming, breaking out windows, killing stuff, you know, none of that. They were busy just being kids, man, and I was like completely done after it was all over. And this is the energy that I was born with as a kid, but by the time I hit school, man, mine was very small because I was getting knocked down for it at all. There was no space for my energy in my house. I didn't have a room. I grew up on the sofa in the living room. My parents really didn't want a child. They really didn't. And they had one. My unfortunate experience was being that child. So, now I'm 17 years clean and sober. I have prayed. I have surrendered to God. I've worked the steps. I've gone to the meetings. I've written 32 inventories by the time I'm 17 years clean and sober. I've done all of this, and by this time in my life, I'm a successful television writer. I'm bringing money home by the wheelbarrow full. I'm driving expensive automobiles, living in a penthouse at the beach. I've got a gorgeous girlfriend. I'm divorcing an expensive, gorgeous wife, the California dream. I stand before you a husband 7 times. And you know what's interesting? I kept getting married all these times in recovery, and nobody said anything. You know, it's like, well, you know, he just didn't find the right one. That's what I believe, too. That's what I believe, too. Because there's a dynamic at work in people with no self-esteem. If you don't have any self-esteem, you believe all your answers lay external to you. Nothing good can come from in here, so it must come from external. So I was thoroughly convinced, although I was going through wife after wife after wife, once, well, let me bring you up to date, then I'll get back to this. This is where I weed out those who aren't paying attention. And don't have the kind of mind that can track this crap, right? So here I am, 17 years sober, got everything, man, the dream, you know, the dream, the money, the house, just all of it. Respected a speaker, spiritual guru, I mean, all of it, you know? And I can't think of a morning I didn't wake up that dying was infinitely more appealing to me than living. The minute my eyes opened, I thought, oh, no, man, not another day. Well, the relationship I was in was a great one because I don't know who put us together, whether it was God or the devil, but whoever it was, decided that we needed to accelerate our learning curve because we just made each other completely insane. and couldn't let go. You know what I mean? I mean, we pushed each other's buttons simply by walking in the room. You know? I was like, ugh. And so, in one of these beautiful, blissful moments between us, I had been married 5 times by this point. I'm in one of these little discussions with her, and she spins on me and looks me right in the eyes, and she said, "Did you ever stop to think maybe it wasn't them?" Referring to my 5 ex-wives. And I thought about it, looked at her for a minute, said no. No, I hadn't, and the reason I hadn't is because I always knew if I found the right woman, I'd be okay. It didn't have anything to do with me. It didn't have anything to do with my changing. It had to do with just finding her. I should drive the streets at 4 o'clock in the morning looking for her. And I knew what she'd look like. She'd be tall, leggy, blonde, leaning on the fender of her Rolls Royce. Right? Yeah, but you hear this? See, I knew that not having any self-esteem, I could never get these things on my own. So it would have to be someone else that would bring these things into my life for me. So she had to have the money, because I didn't have it and wasn't going to get it. You know? And she would say as I drove by at 4 in the morning, "Come here. You're him." And I would have said, "Okay, I'm ready." So instead, under this onslaught from my current significant other, 17 years sober, I decided the only thing left for me to try that I hadn't tried in 17 years of recovery was therapy. I'm not here to tell anybody what to do with your program. I'm here to tell you what I did with my program. If therapy offends you, God, I'm really sorry. You know? No, I'm not. I'm not sorry for any of who I am or my story or what I'm about. If it offends you, leave. Don't put yourself under an abusive situation, because it's going to get worse. So I figure I get a woman therapist, right? Because she can give me the inside track and I can stop all these marriages, which are killing me. Because they were costing me every cent I had. So I get this woman therapist, I go to her office. She says, "Starting with your childhood, tell me a little bit about yourself." I said, "Well, when I was 15 years old, they threw me out of Manual Arts High School." I said, "I discovered the wonderful world of drugs and alcohol. I spent the next 11 years bringing drugs into the U.S. from Mexico. 17 years ago, I wandered through the doors of AA and NA, and I've been clean and sober ever since." She gave me a strange look, and she said, "No, wait a minute." She said, "I said start with your childhood. You weren't born at 15. You know?" I looked at her, and real nonchalant, as if it was, everybody said this, as if everybody said this. I said, "I don't remember anything before 15. Seemed perfectly sane to me. You know, all my inventories in recovery had started at age 15. I had read them to my sponsors. No one had said anything about it, because of course they couldn't remember before age 15 either. You know? So it was perfectly acceptable to them. We judge all others by the information we have. It's all we got to work with. It's all we got to work with." So I said, "Well, I don't remember anything." And she got this great smile. And I was a bit of a cynic, you know, to say the least, in those days.
Sorry to interrupt your viewing. Taper Dave here. Just wanted to take a second to ask you to like and subscribe to my channel. Let me know if you like what you're listening. I've got some very good talks here, and this one's a great one. Just curious, do you think this is better than Zoom? Tell me what you think.
And I thought the smile meant that the minute I left her office, she was going to grab up the phone, call the Rolls Royce dealer, tell him she was going to take the full leather interior, because she had somebody who was going to pay for it, who had just left the office. That somebody being me. And so what happened over a period of years with this woman is she took me back until I could start remembering some of the stuff that went on when I was a kid. Primarily getting my brains beaten out in this sense of not being okay. Of not being all Right. I was, who the hell was I talking to? Was I reading it? God, I don't know, but anyway, just very recently, I was talking to someone or reading something, I can't remember which. And the guy was talking about children nursing with their moms. And he said, when your mom takes you and puts you on the breast to nurse you, if mom is comfortable in her body, feels good, and thinks life is a great deal and an exciting adventure, that's the message you're going to get. And you're going to feel like, hey, this is okay. I want to be here. This is all right. But if she can't give you that message, if the message is other than that, if she's frightened, angry, depressed, miserable, whatever it may be, then the message is going to be, this is not an okay place to be, and I don't want to be here. Okay? The message I got was, this is not an okay place to be, I don't want to be here, and I'm not okay. Something's wrong with me. Something's wrong. We spent a few years together, this lady and I, getting back to the pain. And one thing that had gone on throughout my recovery, which is really interesting, I had this constant, well, it's interesting to me anyway, I had this constant reoccurring fantasy. And I mean, it was from about the time I was maybe 3.5 years sober. Certainly after I had a car, because it always, most of the time it came driving. And I would fantasize that I was driving down a freeway in Southern California, and in front of me would be a station wagon. And in this station wagon would be a husband and his wife and their 2 children. And a tire would blow out on the station wagon, and it would spin out of control and flip end over end and crash into one of the concrete abutments on the freeway, and it would burst into flame. And I would stop my car, and I would get out, and I would rush up to the station wagon, and I would get the mother out, and I would get one of the children out, but I would be unable to get out the father, and I'd be unable to get out the second child. And I would be standing there then on 11 o'clock news on TV, and my arms would be bandaged because they were severely burned, and my face was all like covered with soot, and a lot of my hair was singed. And they're telling me I'm a hero, and I'm saying to people, no, I'm not. I'm just a guy who just did what had to be done, at the moment it needed to be done. And I had that fantasy until I began to fly, which was about 6 years in recovery, where I'd get on a plane and fly. And once I started to fly, I began to have the fantasy as I'd be on one of these planes, and the plane would crash. And then there would be smoke and flame, coming through the fuselage, and I'd be crawling down on my hands and knees down the aisle of the plane, and I'd be leading people from their seats to the exit and helping them get down the slides to the ground. And after about half the people were off, the heat and the flames would be so intense I couldn't stand it anymore, and I would get off. And then one more time, there I would be on the 11 o'clock news with my arms bandaged and my hair singed and soot all over my face, telling people that I was not a hero. I mentioned this to somebody in the program one time. I think it was one of my sponsors. And he says, oh my God, what an ego you've got, man. You're willing for half of an airplane full of people to die so that you'll look good? I accepted that. I listened to that crap and I said, yeah, I guess, I need to work on getting more humility. And yet when he said that, it didn't feel right inside. Something didn't feel right inside. So years later, I'm sitting with my therapist. I said, look, I want to talk to you for a minute about this. And she knew that I had been burned once, and I consider being burned like the worst pain there is. So I said to her, look, what about this little thing that I've been living with for years and years and years and years, this fantasy about the car and the plane and the thing and the people crashing and Mike dragging him out? I said, does it have anything to do with just, having a huge ego and needing all this recognition? And she says, no, I don't think so. She said, it sounds to me like somebody who would like some external proof of their internal pain. And you just wanted people to see how bad that you really hurt. And you wanted them to know you were really a good guy. And you were willing to be burned to show the world that you're in pain and that you're a good guy. I went, oh, gee. By that time, it bothered me a lot to think that I cared so little about myself and that I couldn't tell you that I hurt. That I was so afraid of what you might think of me that I couldn't say, I have a lot of pain in here and I don't even know what it's about. You know, I don't feel good about who I am, and I don't know why, because I'm really an okay guy. I don't know why I feel so terrible. I'm a parent today. It's interesting being a parent. I'm not a perfect parent. I remember, I've read a lot of books on parenting lately. I understand that one of my problems is lack of information. Lack of information. I just don't have a lot of information. And when I don't have information, I'm afraid to ask. Because I'm afraid that if I let you know that I don't know, that's more validation that I don't know, which means I'm really stupid, which means that something's really wrong with me. As I get more functional in my own life, I have this interesting thing happening. I'm starting to meet, honest to God, real life people out there who are functional. And these poor bastards grew up spending their whole lives thinking they're okay. I ask them, what do you do with your time? You know? I wake up in the morning, it takes me 25 minutes just to move myself from insanity into sanity, you know? Just to ignore the voices that are telling me that I'm going to lose my job, I didn't get enough sleep, I've got cancer, I'm running out of money, you know. The general, hi Bob, nice to see you, have a nice day. You're a great guy, you're going to have wonderful experiences today, God loves you, go for it. You know, I never got that, man. I always got this misery heaped on me in the morning, you know. You're an awful human being. That made me forget what the hell I was talking about. Being a parent? Oh, information. So, let's see, where do I want to go with all this? I don't know, let's just let it come out. Tina and I very much wanted to have a child. That was a planned child. We knew we wanted this baby. It was one of those where we were out shopping in town and suddenly she turned and looked at me and said, I think this is a very good time to go home and make a baby. So we threw away the shopping list and we went home and made a baby. Very exciting process when you know what it is you're doing, you're in your body. And then we realized, a short time later, that we actually had made a baby. I have no children in recovery, in sobriety. My youngest daughter is like 35 years old, and I have no relationship with her. Tina, at that point in her life, was about 36 or 37 years old, had no children, and up until that point in her life had not particularly liked children for any reason. And yet somehow we wanted to have a child. And once we realized she was pregnant, we went out, we thought, what the hell do we do now? You know, we're about to be parents. The last thing we want to do is emulate the actually outstanding parental job done by our original dynamic duos, you know. So we went for books, man. We got every book we could find on babies, on pregnancy and babies and how do you do it and what do you do. And we read the books and we talked and we'd sit up at night, you know, and I'm a vegetarian, she's not, and I kept telling her, you can't feed the kid meat, you know, God, it's, you're eating a rainforest, you know, stop it, you know, you can't. I'm fun to live with, jeez, I really am. So she didn't, so she ate sushi, she craved sushi. She ate sushi for 9 months, about 4 nights a week, cost a fortune. If you ever wondered about the properties of my wife was small, if you ever wondered about the properties of fish and rice, the baby weighed 9 pounds, 9 ounces. So I guess it's okay, it must be nurturing, because she came out really big. And we went through all this stuff, and then she's born, and here is this kid, you know, got this child, this beautiful, angelic child. And it's like, what do you do now? You know, now it's the next set of books, more information, because I realize I don't know, and by now I have a few functional people in my life, and it's interesting about functional human beings. They do not feel superior to you because they possess information you don't have. Their attitude is, quite simply, if you don't have it, it means you don't it was not made available to you, which doesn't make you a lesser human being. God, that was like, I mean, I spent my whole life groveling because I didn't have the information, because I didn't have the credentials, because I didn't graduate high school, because I didn't know this. I would fake it, pretend, ignore, hide, run away, but I couldn't let you know I didn't know. Okay? And now I'm meeting people, they say, well, have you, you know anything about the basic metabolism of a child? And I'd say, well, no, I don't know anything at all about it. And instead of saying, looking at me like I crawled out from underneath a rock, they'd give me information. They'd say, well, let's talk about the na-na-na-na-na. I go, wow, oh, that's interesting. Oh, God, that's great. Now I have information. Thanks. Compulsive obsessive person with a glass, you know.
One is never enough.
Thank you. One is never enough, trust me. Never has been and may never be. And that's okay too. The first thing that upset me the most is one night she cried and she wouldn't stop crying, and the very first thing I wanted to do was pick her up and throw her against the wall. And here I am, a leader of men, you know, and sitting in the hills of New Mexico, going and sharing a sweat lodge one night a week with my Native American brothers, and chanting chants and singing songs, and getting close to all things that live and grow, and I want to take my daughter and throw her against the wall. See? And the reason I want to do that is because that's the only thing I know to stop a child from crying. That's all I know. That's how I was stopped. See? And so I know that that works. But I can't do that because I believe that to strike a child is abuse. Under any circumstances, ever. So now I have to start to deal with this stuff. I'm a recovering man. I'm a father. I have a child. And the first thing that's absolutely incredible is she does not want to do what I wanted to do when I wanted to do it. It seems that we really don't run on the same timetable, her and I. We have a lot of problems in this area. So on one hand, the interesting thing was I'm learning about the whole massive scope of feelings, because on one hand, I want to take her and throw her against a wall like a ball. And on the other hand, I will walk in a room and she'll be sitting there 6 months old or in a corner with her little shoulders rounded over, very busy with like a piece of lint, you know, real. She loved lint. Lint was very important to this child. And she'd be very busy with this little piece of lint, and I would see this small child sitting in the corner with this piece of lint, and I would start to cry. Because she was my daughter. This is my child. And I loved her so much, it just brought tears to my eyes. This is my baby. My baby. I never had these. My first two poor daughters, Christ, I was dealing drugs. You know, I mean, I was always armed. I'm the kind of guy that took down both ends of drug deals. You know, so I'm always on red alert, man. People were looking for me and I'm looking for them. These two little girls grew up in a house like that. Geez, they didn't have a chance. Not a chance. This one is in a house with different energy. It's different energy. I love her and I adore her. On the other hand, I get really angry with her. More books, more information, you know, more information. Talk to more parents. And I had to learn that I need to count 10 with this kid. Not only when she won't do what I want her to do, but when she wants to do something. Like one night she's sitting in the bathtub and she's telling me in her science, she wasn't real old, but she's letting me know that she wants to take this big pink kangaroo, stuffed kangaroo, into the bathtub with her. And I don't know, bathe it, drown it, something with it, but she wanted to bathe it. My immediate reaction to that is my mother's immediate reaction. Are there a lot of parents here tonight? Why are you minding this story? I don't know. Well, here, I'll finish the story. So anyway, I mean, my mind starts saying, no, you can't bathe the goddamn kangaroo. It's full of sawdust. The sawdust will get wet, and then it's going to smell, and it's going to stink, and then the fur is going to fall off, and it's going to look terrible. You can't put the kangaroo in the tub. Once I've stood there and let all that stuff go through, I just listen to it, just let it go through. I have no desire to stop it. Then I look at her, look at the tub, look at the kangaroo, and I think, why not? Really, why not bathe the goddamn kangaroo? Who the hell cares? You know, what does it matter? So I gave her the kangaroo, you know. She got the kangaroo, and she got her a baby soap, Johnson's shampoo, no tears stuff, right? Work that kangaroo over, man. I mean, just worked it over. It was like this, like a ball of lather, of suds, right? And we rinsed it off under the faucet, wrung it out, you know. And then she and I walked out to the laundry room, and we put it in the dryer and closed the door, you know. Turn on the dryer, and we came back about 50 minutes later and opened the dryer drawer, and we extracted this absolutely gorgeous pink fluffy kangaroo, you know. Looked wonderful. I started to cry because I let her do it. You know, I let her do it. I let her be who she wanted to be and do what she wanted to do, and nobody got hurt by that. I cry those tears because I wasn't allowed that, and because I can allow. And I was thrilled because she was thrilled because it was her idea and it worked out. It was her idea and it worked out. I'm going to talk a little more about her because the quality of her life is very good. The quality of her life is very, very good. And when things are not okay with her, she does not act like things are okay with her, you know? See, because no one's ever stepped on her spirit. No one has ever struck this child. So she thinks it's perfectly okay to tell you that she doesn't like whatever the hell it is that's going on, you know? Or that she wants what she wants. Well, when she was 20 months old, we lived in a small town in northern Arizona. Don't talk about that experience, Bob. Okay, I won't. I hated it there. And it was my idea, too, which made it even worse. You know, you got to be allowed about 4 of those in a lifetime. And that was one, man, let me tell you. Oh, jeez, that was lovely. So anyway, it was beautiful there, and we're out walking. That was about all. It was beautiful. But, you know, on a topography level, it was a wonderful place to live. Enough said. Anyway, we're in a really rural area, and we're out walking this road from behind our house. I'll go this direction. And the mesas are these beautiful tabletop mountains, are just about a mile down the road from the house. And hanging right on top of these mesas is this full moon, huge full moon. And we call our daughter Sasha. That's her nickname. So she was doing what she called walk self. Now, what walk self means is this: don't touch me, right? It means don't guide me with your hand on my shoulder. Don't guide me with 3 fingers at the back of my head. Do not take my elbow and do not take my hand. Don't touch me. You know, I'm great with the fingers at the back of the head, right? Just a little help. And I would like get my fingers back there and she'd go, walk self. Yeah. So we're going down the road and she's walking self, and then suddenly she starts going like this. She starts going, oh, she goes, oh, Sasha's flying. Oh, she says, Sasha's flying through the air. Oh, in the air. And then she goes, Sasha's holding the moon. 20 months old. Where'd she get this stuff? Tina and I looked at each other and tears were streaming down our faces. We said, my God, you know what? This child's spirit may be so free, because nobody stepped on it, that she in fact just flew to the moon. We have no way of knowing. 20 months old. She's flying to the moon. You know? And in her, I see the power of the child. And when I see the power in her, I understand that the power I'm capable of. And I understand the power that we all were born with, but somehow got tampered with. You know? I'm not one of these people who became addicted because I used a lot of stuff. I became addicted because it worked. I was in serious trouble when I found the stuff. It was like a godsend to me. There was no me anyway, so the chemicals were something wonderful. And I had no power left in my life. What my mother hadn't gotten by beating the shit out of me, and my father hadn't gotten with silence, and the school system hadn't gotten, making me looking like an idiot, the prison system was getting by dragging me in and out of courts like an animal in chains and shackles against my human rights, but I was not a friendly person to be around, so that's the way I went in, right? And so I had lost all that. I had no power left, and the chemicals gave me power. You know, I love all this bewilderment over children and Satanism today. Why don't they wake up, man? It gives the kids power. Power. So great, even power over life and death. My little squirt, blonde-haired, blue-eyed, trucks up the road. She's got power. She can walk self and fly to the moon. See? So somebody said to me, geez, what's recovery about, Bob? I have to say a big piece of my recovery is about getting my power back. I no longer believe that all my answers lay external to me. Sure, I'd like to hit the lottery like everybody else, but I don't believe it's the answer. I have a friend who's worth $140 million. I mean, it's been said he can get $140 million cash in 30 minutes. He can go liquid, 140 liquid in 30 minutes. And that statement was made by a very conservative CPA. I asked him one day in a hallway, I said, and he can't enjoy it, right? He's terrified his children will be kidnapped. He drives old beat-up cars. His wife shops at Kmart for the clothes for them and the children, so no one will really realize the extent of their wealth. He drives these wrecked cars, although he has multi-million-dollar homes all over the world. I said to him one day in a hallway, I said, when's it going to be enough? When's it going to be enough? And it's the first time he's always going. He's going fast, right? He can't stop. And he stopped. And he didn't say a word, which is like a miracle for this guy, for maybe 10 seconds, 15 seconds. And he looked me right in the eyes and he said, maybe never. Maybe never. Here's a guy with that kind of wealth, says it ain't enough. And it may never be enough. And the dynamic here, and I want to talk about this for about 2 seconds, is really critical. If you don't have self-esteem and you don't feel good inside, you will spend your whole life looking out there. She's going to be my answer. He's going to be my answer. I'm going to get the right credentials. That's going to be the answer. I'm going to get the right job. It's going to be the answer. I'm going to get the right amount of money. I'm going to drive the right car. I'm going to wear the right clothes. I'm going to have a thin enough body. You know, I mean, and then we get in relationships that we got to wait for our partner to come home before we see how we're going to feel, right? You know, what kind of night am I going to have? Geez, I don't know. My maid isn't home yet, you know? As soon as they get here, I'll tell you, because my whole life is external to me. See, my whole life is external to me. Because I don't have any self-esteem, I've lost my power. I don't sit home and wait knowing that my evening is my evening because of how I feel. And if my spouse comes home in a lousy mood, geez, I'm sorry about that. Anything I can do? No? Think I'll go to a movie. No? I'll see you later. I'll be home. Take care of yourself. Do what you have to do. All because some information I got when I was small led me to believe that somehow something's wrong with me. Once I came to understand that was a lie, I began slowly to recoup my power. I now, for the most part, understand that all my success is going to come from in here, not out there. That I possess. This guy, man, this kid who was slow in school, this kid who was in jail all the time, this kid who had his brains beaten in, this kid who failed course after course, class after class, this kid, man, who never was picked up by a parent and told that he was loved, man, just this little animal, right? This guy possesses in him today, as a man, everything he'll ever need, everything, to be a success. That means to have a life where I'm comfortable in my life and I'm comfortable in my body. Just comfortable in my body. Like I'm okay in my body. To get to this stuff, some of you may never find in this a need to look at anything other than the literature available within the framework of 12-step recovery. It may do it for you. I had to go outside. It doesn't make you wrong. It doesn't make me wrong. I needed more, man. I needed more. Without it, I would have died. You may not. You may find all the tools you need right here. We're both okay. We're both okay. There's an excellent yardstick to use in your own life. When I'm okay with me, I have no need to make you wrong. You know? I'm okay with me, I have no need to make you wrong. Who am I today? God, let's see, how old am I? 56 years old, a couple months away from 30 years of sobriety, father of a 4-year-old, longest marriage I've ever had. I mean, things are happening here, do you understand? I've lived outside of a city now for almost 6 years, or what I consider a city anyway. So I'm out of that, you know, which was critical to me. I survived in that. Go fast, talk fast, drive fast, think fast, you know, read US Today, you know, screw the story behind the story, just give me the headline, you know. I can get it on the headline. Oh, I'm okay. It doesn't bother me when I run out of things up here. Trying to think of a way to close this because I have an airplane to catch. I'm visiting my niece visiting with her baby from Italy, and here's a little story. I'll tell it. It's worth telling because it's about finding out who you are, man, and then having your life, not somebody else's life, your life. This little girl, her mother died when she was about 15 years old, I guess. Alcoholic, raging lunatic. My wife's sister. Oh, my wife's family is, you know. Anyway, so she got a few $1,000s when her mom died, $5,000, $6,000. I can't remember what. She just graduated high school. She's 18 years old, and she looks at her family and she says, "I'm going to Italy." She doesn't speak the language. She doesn't know anybody there, right? Nothing. And they said, "What?" This is a family that's lived in the same house for 40 years, you know, and still has newspapers from 40 years ago, right? So this is not a real welcome piece of information here. She said, "Yeah, I'm going to Italy." And they said, "What's wrong with you?" She said, "Man, what's fear for me?" She said, "You know, I'm a high school graduate. I'm not very bright, man. It's going to be Burger King. You know? I'm going to go to Italy and do something or be a model or do something, you know, fashion's there." Got on a plane and went, right? Never made it as a model. But she started to run out of money, and she's a scuba diver. So she went to a club over there. By now she's learned enough Italian that she speaks a little of both. She goes to a resort over there and starts to teach scuba. While teaching scuba in the resort, she meets this really beautiful guy. What a sweet guy he is. An Italian guy who lives on the island of Sardinia. He has this magnificent boat which he transports tourists from island to island to these European resorts. They fall madly in love and get married. So here's this little 18-year-old girl from the same family as my wife, from the same insanity, the same lunacy, and the same everything, but she got on a plane and booked it, not only out of town, man, flat out of the country, right? She knew there was nothing here for her, man. Somehow she knew. And she just got off the plane this morning with her sister-in-law. She's got her baby son who's 9 months old with her. And she lives in this beautiful home on this island in Italy. And they have this great boat and they transport. She has a life that's like a goddamn fairy tale. Because for whatever reason, there was one moment in her life that was okay with her. She took a chance. And for somehow, with all the things her family did wrong, one message she got was that being a woman is not a reason not to have an adventure. You know? They gave her that. It almost had to be Tina. They gave her that. So that's the stuff I'm trying to talk about. At some point, for an awful lot of people, the quality of your life in recovery is going to become essential. Essential. And that's going to mean, man, getting rid of some of these other addictions that we boogie on down the road with in recovery. I hit recovery, I started smoking twice as much, drinking twice as much coffee, eating 55-gallon drums of sugar. I would go to bed with anything that would stand still and have sex with me. I mean, anything it took, you know, it's like, you know, and all I was trying to do was find ways to hold the feelings down that I had been holding down with the drugs for all those years, and unfortunately, the other stuff isn't as efficient. So it takes so much more, right? I kept giving stuff up. A friend of mine said to me one time, he said, "Bob, your problem is you keep using up your lifetime supply of stuff before you die." So eventually, I believe for a great many, it's going to become important. What you eat, where you go, that you exercise a little bit, that you take care of yourself, that you become important in your own life, you become an important person, that the quality of your life is okay, that you work at something that you enjoy doing, that you get some pleasure out of being who you are. They can just walk out, man, and look at a sky and stand there and, hey, this is all right. This is all right. I don't have to change anything this minute. That's part of getting your power back. And I don't care how you go about getting it. I know that finding it makes things really wonderful. I guess if I had a wish for everybody here, the wish would be that through this process, you reach a point eventually where you, like my daughter, can walk self and fly to the moon. God bless you.
I think we got a great talk going on here. Thanks for watching the channel. Taper Dave here. Just curious, do you think this is better than Zoom? Okay, this is how I prepare my drone for launching. I like to do it inside the cab of my truck so I'm not standing outside in the weather. To install the joysticks for control, up and down, right and left, powered on. I have an Android phone that I use to connect it to the drone with. And it's actually controlled through the iPhone, through an app. Oops, wrong way. It's actually controlled through the iPhone, or through this Android phone, through the app. It's actually controlled through the Android phone, through an app, and you connect it through this short connection right here.
Remote control connected.
Remote control's connected. So I pull out the drone. I have to extend the legs, long legs extended first, then the short legs. Remove the gimbal protector. Set that aside, then power it on one short burst, then one long burst. I lay it down. So I have to go to calibrate. So the drone's not connected yet. It shows you here as this drone gets disconnected, even though the remote's powered on. So the drone has to establish it's connected. So I go into the app to calibration mode. First I'll calibrate the remote controller. Start calibration. Out, in, oop, out, in, up, down. And then this little wheel is to control the gimbal. So it's calibrated. Go to gimbal calibration, start calibration, and then it calibrates the gimbal. I don't know if that shows up. The gimbal's moving all over the place. Changes, you can see it on the video. And I'm calibrated to take off. It's acquired 7 satellites at the moment. There are 26 satellites up in the sky, which it has to acquire before you can take off. So it's connected. It's got enough satellites. This is white. I can go to press this little arrow button, swipe right to take off, and it would start the motors if I slid this to the right. But I'll wait till I get outside. Don't want to do it inside.